Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm David Bird with Reality Reimagined. I'm an award-winning photographer and Photoshop artist that specializes in fantasy composite art. In introductions, before we continue forward, this is my wonderful friend Janelle. You've seen her in previous tutorials here on the channel. If you'd like to see more of her amazing artwork, visit the Instagram account at the link below. We're going to continue forward with the lighting tutorials on the channel with the final tutorial for now of a lighting pattern that I typically use in gel photography. Now, I do not know the technical name of this lighting pattern. I call it strip lighting, which sounds scandalous, but at one point we covered lighting patterns called clamshell lighting, and that's just scandalous for a completely different reason. The reason I call it strip lighting is because ultimately we're going to be using 2 extra lights into the scene for a total of 3, and those 2 extra lights are going to have strip boxes on them. So let's talk about a core mechanic of lighting before we continue with this lighting pattern. When you use a light as an off-camera flash, very rarely are you going to use the entire light and all the available light that it throws onto the subject. So most of the time, we are going to position the light anywhere but directly at the subject. Think about it. If you're using a phone to take a picture, the flash in the phone itself is going to throw light directly forward, all of the light, and you're going to position the phone right in front of your subject. That's called flat lighting, where there is no chance for the light to be able to sculpt the subject, to create highlight and shadow, which augments the three-dimensionality. I just saw that. I love Janelle, she cracks me up. So anyway, I feel like there's 2 tutorials going on here, and this is great. So when you throw light in different patterns, different positions, and it's not just the modifiers you use, being able to take a light and the wealth of its light and then take about half of that and position it away from the subject. So half of that falls off completely. That may seem counterproductive, like why would you want to not use all of the available light? And it's because that light is so intense. At the center of the light is the hottest, and if you point that center at somebody, all of that light washes over them. Even if you raise the light above them and tilt it down, which is butterfly lighting, you're going to throw so much intense light onto them that you get bright hot spots, and the transition between highlight and shadow is very significant. So it's incredibly rare that you want to use a light with all of its power being thrown directly at the subject. Today, we're going to do both. So we're going to be using 3 Godox AD600 strobes for this strip lighting. The first strobe is going to be on my Manfrotto stand, raised directly above Janelle, tilted down at a 45-degree angle. I'm using a 33-inch beauty dish from Strobe Pro as well. This is butterfly lighting. So a majority of this light is being thrown past her and above her, so it should illuminate the background itself. Only the bottom third of this modifier is directly hitting Janelle. The softest, least powerful part of the light is what I'm purposely positioning to be on my subject. But the other 2 strobes in the scene, they're using 12 by 55-inch strip boxes from Strobe Pro. They also have an interior grid, so it will really focus the light. The grid, or sometimes known as an eggshell crate grid, simply controls, it's a honeycomb, where the light has to travel through it and it can't let it spill out. It really throws it into that rectangular shape of a strip box. Both of these lights are positioned on either side of Janelle. They're equidistant from her so that it's an even amount of light. And the core of it, she's holding back that light with her beauty and power. The core of these lights are pointed right at her. So all of the power of the light is going to cascade across her. So it can seem like the exact opposite of what we're doing with our key light, our main light here with butterfly lighting. This is what creates this strip lighting. I use this lighting when I'm not doing gels. I'll use this lighting for typically athletes because you get this hot light on either side of the subject and then you fill them in with the key light itself. And that hot light tends to sculpt muscles and contours of the body and helps them stand out. So let's take a quick test shot just so we can see what we're doing with these lights today. Whoops, my bad. I got a little trigger happy waking up the camera. There we go. So you can see the lights on either side coming in on her arms and then the light from above. I'm using, by the way, a Canon EOS R with an EF 24-70 Mark II f2.8 lens. And my goal today for the settings of the camera is f11, ISO 400, and a shutter speed of 1/160th of a second. So with all that light cascading in from the sides, it's giving her that sculpt. It's helping her to stand out and be illuminated. And From a lighting ratio where we're choosing to set one light at a certain intensity and the others to complement it, I would almost want to do this in reverse. I want the two side lights to be the strongest lights, the most powerful and visible, with the key light, main light, being the least powerful, so that they stand out even more. So right now, without using my light meter, which by the way, I did use my light meter to get all the lights powered to where I want them to be, and I strongly recommend that you use a light meter in the future when you're setting up your strobes, because the LCD is never going to give you an accurate representation of what the actual light power is, so you will never know how to set the camera to it. Light meters are incredibly easy to use. There will be a link in the description below for not only all the gear we're using in today's video, but a light meter as well that I suggest using. So right now, I'm going to change the two strips to be even more powerful by a full stop of light than what they were just a moment ago. And I'm leaving my main light exactly where it was. Sorry, I guess I should have given you a little bit of warning. It's because right now they're powered up to 1/4 power, so they're gonna make a pretty good sound when they pop. Just don't look right at them because that would be blinding. Okay, hold it right there. You know what, come back straight center to me right there. Perfect, good. Hold right there for me. Oh, that was pretty loud. As you can see, even that one more stop of power, it's pretty significant, and we're getting a lot of light into the scene. Now, again, imagine this being for like an athletic image, weightlifting. Even if you're doing high fashion, this is a great way to throw light into a scene and really create some interesting specular highlights on the body from either side, and then fill them in just a little bit with that key light. But let's do a variation to this. So let me actually have you step back all the way to the paper. Now, in the studio, I'm using 50% seamless gray paper, and this is not going to give you a complete idea of what this is, because typically this variation, which is called high key lighting, would be done on white vinyl. Because high key lighting is essentially where the background is so bright, it's so powerful that most of the negative space in the image is a very bright, visible white background. The subject then has no choice but to stand out. So in this case, since I'm shooting against gray seamless paper, it's not going to bounce the light like white vinyl would, and it's not white. But you can get an idea that we're taking her closer to the background so the light doesn't have fall off. So it's going to hit the background and be even more powerful into this scene. So I've positioned my two strip boxes to be equidistant from Janelle. I'm putting the main light, key light, right center in front of her. They're pretty much at the same distances as they were before when I meter them. So we're going to have just a minor variation to the intensity of the light from f11, but not that big of a difference. All right, here we go. Perfect. Now, you can see in this image, compared to the very first one we took, how vastly different it is simply by moving the subject closer to a solid surface. So now you can imagine that high key lighting. Think about any kind of product photography you've seen or any kind of catalog imagery that you've seen. Most of the time it's done in a high key environment because it's so bright that the subject stands out, the clothing, the items, anything they're using, they stand out in a way that is different from dramatic portraiture like Rembrandt lighting or even butterfly lighting itself. What's wonderful about this lighting pattern is that it's great to use for a lot of different genres. It's very versatile, but then when you throw gels in front of the lights, it's a completely different story. Even though the lights are exactly the same, the powers are the same to a degree, but when you throw gel material in front of it and use color to tell the story instead of just plain white light, you get a really interesting result. And that will be a tutorial that we will explore in the near future on the channel for gel photography, going through all the lighting. I'm just waiting for a new set of lights to come in from a company called Luminate, L-U-M-I-N and the number 8. They're very interesting RGB controlled lighting instruments. I have 5 of them on the way. I'm very excited to start using them in the gel photography work. So let's recap just a few things we've talked about in the previous tutorials. First and foremost, experimentation is key. Absolutely, always. You need to take these lights in this strip lighting setup right now. And imagine what if you take this key light and you bring it to the side, camera left, tilted at a 45-degree angle, both in position and a degree coming down. How is the light going to change? What if we only use one strip instead of 2? What if we put the strips even further behind her and then bring them forward into the shot? So instead of them being even to her shoulder, right next to her, they're behind her, bringing light into the scene. Experimentation is always the way that you're going to innovate and grow with lighting patterns. And that's how you continue to develop a unique style of artwork and be able to get a flow of what your art is, what your brand represents, and bringing people into it. So take these lights, take these patterns, and augment and experiment. Do butter, shell, fly, clam, strip lighting and see how all that, no, don't do that because that's going to be like Frankenstein's monster. But anyway, the idea is find something that works for you, continue to explore and experiment with it, and see how it develops in your artistic journey and your creativity. So that ends the tutorials for now on the channel. Before we continue forward, make sure to visit Janelle's Instagram account. She has some amazing artwork there, so please give her some love on Instagram. If you like the content you found in this video series, make sure to give the video a like and consider subscribing to the channel because new content debuts each week in photography and Photoshop education. And when you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of that new content when you return to the YouTubes. Thanks again, and until next time, I'll see you out there in the world of Photoshop.